for the last show of the golf year, potentially. It is the Wednesday night golf show, but we're on Tuesday. Slight scheduling change. Sorry, Chad. I know a couple people asking. Don't worry, we will get a real schedule ironed out for the real season. But we are here. We're ready to talk RSM Classic. Myself, Ben Raza, here with Jason Roslin. As I always am, we've made it. This is it. We get Shot Tracker back. Not a bad way to go out, to be honest.
No, it's a good course, and the scheduling change, I had everything really good to go. 2 weeks, we had a break. We had no golf tournament that we were doing this. I scheduled my vacation that week, and we all got sick in the household, and parents out there that are listening know what that means, so I had to reschedule it to this week so I didn't lose out a bunch of money. I apologize. Thank you guys for coming to join us on Tuesday night. But, yeah, we're going to Sea Island Resort this weekend, or this week, I should say. Beautiful course. And I guess the opportunity to win $50K again, but I think you can win a little bit more than that on Fantasy Draft this weekend.
Yes, you can. And Fantasy Draft, again, sticking with us, which we really appreciate. Sponsor the show and the only place, rake free. I talk about it each and every show, but it's that important. 100% of the entry fees going to the prize pool. It adds up quickly. We've had so many cases from Ship My Money to Awesemo himself talking about, it's not just the top prize, it's those bottom prizes. Your ROI is impacted and you just save so much money by not paying that rake. So if you haven't signed up and you want to, promo code Awesemo, you get that 7-day free trial. Go check it out. They have the cool golf format, which again, once we get back, and it seems like it's an off season, but it's really just a little break. We will be rocking and rolling. Chad is in rare form as they always are. Good to see everybody. I'm a little.
Yeah, I got some pictures on the wall too, so I'm hoping that they're saying some good things about I finally got some decor on the wall, so they don't just stare at a blank white space.
All good things. I'm a little salty about college basketball right now. I'm not gonna lie, but we're gonna get into this. So a couple things that stand out. I guess I want to ask you right off the top. What do you make of a 2-course thing like this? Because I think you're a very sharp showdown player. We know that. I want to get into that with Plantation specifically, but when you build for the main, do you really factor in the one round that they will play at the par 72?
I try not to. Although if you look back at the previous results, certainly the longer hitters have played better at Plantation, but haven't broken through, right? We've seen Luke List come close here a couple of years ago. We saw Aaron Wise in the top 10 last year. So some longer hitters can survive on the other 3 days, but they need a really low round of Plantation. So you mentioned when we're playing Showdown, it is just the fact that it's a par 72 versus a par 70 is basically the only reason why you should take it. You're almost guaranteed 2 more birdie shots because of the par 5s. And obviously in Showdown formats, you just have to play that out. So Thursday and Friday is where you're going to get $1,000 to first on Thursday, maybe $2K to first on Friday to the top prize there on DraftKings. Definitely be looking at the golfers playing Plantation just for the sheer fact, again, like I said, of having 2 par 3s. 2 more par 5s.
Absolutely.
But for week long, I don't even look at Plantation. I looked at it for 5 seconds to see that it was, I think, maybe a tenth of a stroke easier than Seaside in terms of score to under par. So I don't even bring it in that much.
I'm with you. I think in Showdown, take the low-hanging fruit. You want to stack maybe a wave or in terms of a course, maybe you lean to that on a couple lineups. But other than that, I don't think we really need to get crazy there. So I just wanted to bring that up before we dive in. Take it away. Do you want to talk about Mayakoba at all, or do you want to get into this course?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll mention about Mayakoba, which we mentioned right off the top last week, which was how important driving accuracy was. And I just wanted to give you this quick little stat. So entering the week, if you had just taken the top 12 guys in driving accuracy ranked in the field, you would have gotten 10 of 12 through the cut. If you would have taken driving distance and taken the top 7 or 8, you would have only gotten 2 through the cut. So it just goes to show you. And then if you want to even take it a step further, you go to the Korn Ferry model. So the Korn Ferry guys that played last week, and you just sort that I put on the website. You just sort by driving accuracy. The top 8 guys in driving accuracy from the Korn Ferry Tour all made the cut last week. So just wanted to bring that up because when we see such an outlier like that, it's important to try and play those. course fit is real. Course history may not be real, but course fit certainly is. This week, though, as we transition, we're going to Sea Island, as I mentioned at the top. Two courses here. It's been around for quite some time, but Davis Love has taken over it and did redesign. And the new redesign of the Plantation course that he did is just coming out. However, the fairways on the Seaside course are some of the easiest to hit all year. I mean, Ryan Armour hit 93% of his fairways. Crazy stuff. What do you make of the good putters getting hot and winning here, though? Like Kenzie Hughes, Kevin Kisner, Austin Cook, all pretty good putters, but they all got real hot.
Yeah, I think that's what you know, when you're in a scoring environment like this, what I anticipate it to be, you're going to have to go low. And the way this course is set up, I think it's a pretty nice, even though I don't like this time of the year, I do like this kind of run up of Bermuda to Mayakoba to this. It's a similar track. Once again, you can club down off the tee. You can hit these greens pretty consistently, but then you just talked about it. You got to hit some putts. So these shorter hitters, they can hang in. I see chat. Tim Wilkinson. That's something.
Timmy's already getting busted out. I love it. All right.
We'll get there. But you have to putt. That is my one concern with a couple of the pure ball strikers. Can they make enough to hang in what could be easily north of -20?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely an under par cut, 1, 2, 3 under, somewhere in that range. Yeah. What do you make of it being the Seaside course and there's not really much sea on it? I mean, you see the ocean for maybe one hole, but you don't hit over it. You hit over the inlets and such like that. It is a nice looking golf course. Have you watched it at all in the past?
I have. And yeah, you know, it's interesting because when you read it, there's water hazards on a lot of holes, but are they really hazard? Like if you hit in there, you should be deleted. There's a couple legitimate ones, but like you said, it kind of looks better than it actually plays difficult in terms of water in that respect.
Yeah, I would say from my golfing side, it plays and looks like more of a Scottish Link style course than it does a typical American Seaside course. You know, when we look at like the Farmers Open that Torrey Pines is on and Pebble Beach, Sea Island is nothing like either of those two courses. Granted, they're on opposite sides of the country. Don't get me wrong, but it plays more like a rolling links style course. So quickly, full field of 156 because we are using those two courses. We will see the two course thing happen, and the main reason that it is to accommodate field size because of the length of daylight in a day. It's pretty simple. Only the top 65 and ties making it through, though, so not that many golfers getting through. And also, somebody mentioned in the chat, Tim Wilkinson. Everybody from the Corn Ferry Tours 1 to 50, if they wanted to play, got in. It's a very important field for guys like that. Guys like Tim Wilkinson, guys like Cameron Percy, who there's no reshuffle yet, and they just haven't even gotten starts in the fall. So very, very important week for a couple of those guys. Just wanted to bring that up before we mention on. So anything you want to talk about that or what you expected the 6 of 6 to be because of that?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, we got a full field, top 65. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of guys that it's not like we've never seen them, but as you mentioned, status is murky. They need, Seamus comes to mind. There's a lot of guys like that.
Good point. Yep.
They could really use a quality start here for a lot of reasons. And I like fields like that. The large majority of these guys need these FedEx Cup points. And even though it's insanely early in the year, don't think that they are not taking this extremely seriously.
Yeah, and of course with the guys that I mentioned, like Tim Wilkinson and such, they're subject to the reshuffle, which brings in a couple of more categories of golfers. So they're almost playing like mini FedExes almost every single week within these reshuffles. I believe a reshuffle happens after this week too. So a big finish, for some of those guys that haven't gotten a start will certainly help them get more status once the tour rolls around to the beginning of the year. All right, so we'll transition into the top, and instead of just going player by player, I thought I'd write down some questions about each, and we'll kind of fire them at each other. So I'll start off. Webb, I've got him projected at over 20%. He's just so consistent. He's been so good. He's by far the lowest ranked golfer here. Other than the withdrawal, the form here is pretty good. Are you going to really pay 11.4, I think it is, and 20+% for Webb this week?
So the only thing that I shouldn't say the only thing I like about Webb this week was I thought maybe he would not garner a ton of ownership, but if it looks like he is, and I've seen that a couple places, that's troublesome for me. He's played once in 11 weeks. Now I understand he played well in that event, but man, that's a break. I kind of prefer my guys get a little more reps than that. Now he's going to a course that he likes. There's no doubt he can play well, but you're not hoping he plays well. You're hoping he carries your lineups at 11-6. So for me, immediately, similar to last week, I'm more drawn to a balanced build over a guy like Webb.
So it may not be a balanced build, but it goes to your guys, at least you wanting guys that have played a little bit more. How about Kuchar 62 on Sunday? Does that intrigue you?
So, and we will see, and obviously tomorrow we'll see what comes of it. I think Kuchar may get lost to an extent because we've got Webb. Billy Ho is playing great. I think a lot of people are going to be drawn to him. CH3 is the defending champ, and then Harris English is seriously the hottest golfer on tour right now. Kuchar's the one who kind of gets lost in the shuffle, was fine at Mayakoba, but not stellar. Good course, but not great history. I actually am a little intrigued against an off-the-green kind of play with Kuchar up top.
Yeah, I don't mind Kuchar here either at all. I was reluctant to play him last week. I think that ended up being the spot. He ended up coming in at 5% owned. Now, granted, he was the highest priced guy. But if you had gone him, you would have avoided Victor Hovland and Tony Finau, which I didn't avoid Victor Hovland, that's for sure. And sometimes that's all it takes, fading those top guys and hitting on your next price guy, which Billy Horschel was the guy. You look at Ponta, who won the $8 last week. You look at his lineup, and he's got Scotty Scheffler, a balance, and Billy Horschel, which, again, totally avoided those guys up top. Obviously, hitting Vaughn Taylor and Brendan Todd didn't hurt. But those guys were so cheap that you needed to avoid the bombs up top to have a good lineup last week, and that was the thing. So, all right, I like Kuchar. I like Kuchar a little bit over Webb in terms of my ranking this week. I like Charles Howell a lot, though. 10,400. The form seems really good. He knows he can win this event. Everything just seems to set up well for him. Can his putter get hot again, though? That's the question.
And that's really what it comes down to. I think you already echoed that you kind of need to putt here. Now, this is Bermuda, but putting is so fluky. So I'm still somewhat interested. But I do want to just echo again what you just said, because I think it needs to be restated. Tournaments like this, where the win equity up top is somewhat dispersed, a lot of times the lineup construction, it can be that you can't get the right permutation if you pay up. That's not always the case. I don't want to say it's a blanket statement, but that is why builds can be really effective of going really balanced, because if the winner comes not from the top, and I think that's more likely in a tournament like this, the way you need to structure it sometimes is not having a pure punt and not paying up. So just be aware of that, and it kind of feeds into what we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Before we move on to our next guy in our next pricing section, I want to talk about really quickly what your thoughts were, before I give you mine, about Russell Henley's basically DQ last week. I mean, from a guy, and you've told me, you don't play a ton of golf yourself.
That's an overstatement.
From an outsider that doesn't play golf that much, what do you feel about that? Is this the most ludicrous golf rule you have legitimately ever heard, or is there something more obscure?
Well, I'm in an interesting position. Yeah, I don't play golf, but I roster Russell Henley, so I have a double theory on it. I said this at 2:30 with Tim today. I was focused more on football, and I saw that I had a pretty good lineup. Probably going to cruise through to 6-6. Russell Henley not in contention to miss the cut. And then I saw
top 10. Yeah, he was in the top 10. Yeah.
I saw he missed the cut. And obviously, it being Russell Henley, I figured he did something stupid. Then when I dug in and I saw that he was penalized 2 strokes a hole for 4 consecutive holes for. Now, I want to pass this back to you. My understanding is that he had a rogue ball in his bag that he did not know about while he was signing other balls. And then that's a violation of the 1 ball rule. I don't really understand what happened, to be honest.
So in only professional golf and high level amateur events, they carry this local rule basically in all these events that say you can only play a Titleist 7 Pro V1X, not even a Pro V1, just a Pro V1X. Those are two totally different type of balls. You can only play Titleist 7, can't even be Titleist 4. Titleist 7, Pro V1X with 2 red dots. You can have as many as you want of them, but you can only play that ball with those insignias on it. The theory behind it is I'm only thinking on a perspective of the rules. The rules on it say it's just easy to identify your golf ball.
That makes sense.
And obviously, we have seen so many cases in the past of, is that my golf ball? Is that not my golf ball? And so on and so forth, come into big play. The other thing that's been floated around is that if you could switch balls, it could give you an advantage. I personally don't believe that. I mean, I could go around with a top flight and switch to a Titleist. It wouldn't matter that much, maybe a little bit, but still, when I heard that rule come out, I knew it was there. I never thought it would be enforced. And what they don't specifically say is if he actually played the ball that he found in his bag or if it was just there. The story that I read didn't even say that. So for me, my one good lineup of the week, of course, no doubt about it, had him in it, right? And as you just mentioned, you had it the same way.
So gross. Now, I will say, bringing it back, I think that there will be a reasonable amount of people that just look at the results and they do not realize what happened. And to me, that makes Russell Henley very interesting here. This is another good course for him. He was playing fantastic golf through, 30 holes. Would have made that cut and found the weekend. I think it's an easy go back spot to a guy that's obviously an outlier. Right? No one's arguing against that.
Yeah, and that's a perfect transition. I will say one more thing that we didn't mention, Harris English. We didn't talk about him in that top section. I faded him last week, and it was one of the big reasons why my results were terrible as they were. And of course, if you want to see my results week to week, I give them out every single time as part of the Osmo Plus membership. I'm very transparent. I put exactly what I play in and all the plays. Ben puts out all his plays and above the cut. Those are our 2 premium articles. You can expect them each and every week next year. So in terms of the golf membership, the Osmo Plus, that's where you get those. I faded Harris English. I said I was fading Harris English, and it cost me. I'm just going to continue to do it, I guess. At 10,000, I feel like maybe I can get Vaughn Taylor, who's in very, very good form as well, at much cheaper. Are you condoning that, or are you would you suggest other people to play him? Where do you stand on Harris English?
So I always have I think number one rule in all of DFS is don't have like hard and fast rules. You have to be flexible. But I will say that generally, when a guy gets a massive price bump relative to him playing at an insane level that we all know he can't keep up long term, the only time I'm interested usually is if the ownership depresses where it's valuable to play him. But Harris English is still going to be popular. Now, he's playing fantastic. Nobody's arguing against that. But, man, I have a hard time paying a premium for a guy that is also very popular. You talked right at the top about how hard this cut is to make, as most of these full fields are going to be. If he misses the cut, you are at such an advantage if you don't have him. And I don't think any of these guys are cruising through just because of the made cut equity is low across the board in a field like this. So I will err on the side of not playing him. And if he turns out another top 5, so be it. I will have to work around that.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think we can go into the next section where we've got a decent amount of guys, and how I wanted to start it off was I'm going to pick 3, and then you can, and we'll make the case for each. So the first one for me is Scotty Scheffler. While we haven't seen the winning upside, the 3rd place in Bermuda really intrigues me for here. I think we know that Bermuda from Sea Island is actually probably not that far, but we know that we're going to get similar type of grass surfaces, obviously, since it's very, very much in the same region. The courses seem very similar. They're both coastal courses, rolling link style. So while the upside hasn't been there in every tournament, he's been there in every tournament. He hasn't missed any cuts. He's put up the points. So I'm going right back to Scheffler this week. My second was Dylan Fratelli. He was definitely your guy for much of the part last year, and he has actually shown that he's settled into a nice role here on the PGA Tour. He's played pretty well through this fall stretch. So Dylan Fratelli is my number 2, and Vaughn Taylor is my number 3. Maybe I'm late on this, but if he can keep that putter hot this week, statistically he sets up great for it. He's so good under 150. So if he can get plenty of chances there, I like Vaughn Taylor again this week.
So I just want to ask you real quick, and then I'll give mine. how do you separate Von Taylor and Jim Furyk, who's right next to him? Or do you consider Furyk in a similar skill set, similar spot in terms of targeting him?
100% same spot. I went to Taylor only because we got him last week and we didn't get Furyk, and I'm just hoping for the form to continue. But on the subsequent side, somebody could say, hey, I'd rather take Furyk here because I think Taylor's form ran out last week. Very totally understandable. In a one-off, I'm going Taylor, but I definitely have both in my lineups that I've done. I've done my top 5 lineups, and both of them made one of the 5 lineups.
Fair enough. Yeah, I have some interest in Furyk here. I think he sets up well, just as Von Taylor does. I will echo Scotty Scheffler. I mean, you did a Corn Ferry preview to get us ready for the year, and he, I believe, was number 1 without Hovland, who's kind of an anomaly anyway. Guy's just good. There's nothing else to really say. He needs to putt a little better. That will come. He turns out quality finishes. For Telly, of course, I'm going to echo. Did it actually, we can't see the strokes gained, but from what I could glean, actually was off with the ball striking. But that speaks to him in a way. He still came in 11th, leaned on the short game last week. And boy, if it returns. So I'm with you. I'm going to work down a little bit for my couple guys, piggybacking on what you just said. Corn Ferry guy, Bermuda, Harry Higgs, runner up there, playing pretty good golf, 33rd at Mayakoba. This is a guy that, again, his price to me is just, it's hanging in a mid-range that I can appeal to. Do you have any interest there on a guy who's playing pretty good during the swing season?
Yeah, he's playing really good. And you talked me into playing him a little bit last week, which is good. A 33rd place for 7,200 is in the type of contest that you and I like to play those guys in. It's a great setup. We go back to, of course, which you and I think probably fits him a little bit better, like Bermuda did. And yeah, I think that range, honestly, is actually going to be rather hard to pick. You got Adam Long, who just came, had that priced at 6,800, second place. Adam Long out of nowhere. Now with the $1,000 price bump, I'm hoping people play him because I think I'm going to fade him and rather go to Higgs and Armour. Armour's the other one, just same price as Higgs. He's in that elusive 90-80 club. I don't know if you heard me talk about that this week. Last year in the 3 rounds at the Sea Island, Armour hit 93% of his fairways and over 80% of his greens. Absolutely insane. Looks pretty good last week. He hit 75% of his greens, didn't putt well. So I like Armour and I like Higgs in that mid-range section. So how about under? Well, first, let me get your take on Adam Hadwin. I think he's going to be really popular this week, as statistically it looks like he sets up well. You think people take him over Kevin Kisner? You think they both end up at 15%?
I think it's close. Kisner hasn't been playing great, but he's a notorious Sea Island guy. I think people look at the history here. Hadwin fits the course. Now, these guys are going to feel overpriced relative to the strength, but I expect them to have middling ownership relative to what we see up there. And they're kind of in the dead zone. Now, not to jump and we'll go back down in just 1 second. Wise and Noren to me are going to be the clear guys that where it's a dead zone. I don't really have any interest in Noren, but if you wanted to go against the grain, he would be your guy.
So Noren went over to Europe for the last 3 weeks, and 3 weeks ago looked like he might have been back. He was making putts. He was driving the ball well. He was in contention. I think he was even in first for quite a while. Faded totally, came in 15th, and you saw the climax, 28th and 44th the last 2 weeks. Not very good. Nice to see him find a little bit of form, but, even through Jordan Spieth's demise, we saw him kind of pop. So I'm not ready to pay $9,300 for Alex Noren when, I can go get JT Poston or Lanto Griffin much cheaper, who might even be better as golfers longer term than Noren. We really don't know because he shot out of nowhere and came up through the European Tour and shot up the OWGR, and he got tested last year and failed over here. So I don't really know what to do with Noren, so I'm just going to pass on him. I do like Wise. Not going to lie, I think it's a nice bounce back spot for him. He missed the cut on the number last week with a bogey on 18. But let's talk about Brendan Todd for a minute. I'm sorry, Brendan Todd. It's incredible. It really is. It's something like we have never seen before. This guy legitimately had the shanks. He was legitimately, Ben could have kept up in an 18-hole match with him.
Yeah, that's it.
5 years ago. And here he is, back-to-back wins. Are you going to play him, or are you just no? You're just going to let it be?
So I'm not sure I'll get to a ton of them, but I will say this. I'm not clearly, I mean, you can't look at anything long term with him. He's in a zone of all zones, and this is another great course for him. These courses are very similar, as we talked about at the top of the show. So if you liked him the past couple weeks, there is no reason to not like him here. The problem is he's getting up there in price, and there are just other golfers, Scotty Scheffler, Zach Johnson, Russell Knox, all guys I have interest in this week. So I don't know if I get to Brendan Todd, but my God, what an impressive thing for a guy that was, I don't know, if you haven't played PGA golf, DFS for a while, just go back and look, because you don't understand. This guy was an afterthought. He was the worst golfer in every field for months and months and months. I would have assumed he may have never made cuts, let alone win again. It's incredibly impressive.
So on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, follow a guy or go look up a guy named Sean Martin, the PGA Tour guy. I think it's at PGA Tour Sean Martin or something like that. He put out a stat that read something like from 2015 to 2016 and then 2018 to 2019, Brendan Todd missed like 41 of 44 cuts, or 40 cuts in a row at one point.
There you go.
Made less than $300,000 or $400,000, one of those marks, in that time span. So over 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden now he's won over $2 million in the last 2 starts.
That'll work.
It's incredible. So okay, we can move on. Another guy that's playing really well, without many blips, also has some good history on this course, is Brian Gay at 8,800. He just continues to show up at, as you just mentioned, these shorter full circuit type events. Back-to-back top 15s with a third place, and he's got back-to-back top 25s here with a third place. 8,800 mid-ownership paired up with Fratelli. I kind of like them. You can even go one more and throw in Russell Henley, and you've got a really good start to a balanced build. That's
interesting. Yeah, I mean, Brian Gay, it's not a guy that I to be honest, I love the target. I think he's a little overpriced, but when I build, I mean, clearly he's one of the best putters in the world. We know that this is a good course for him. With salary, not a huge issue. I am warming a bit, but still not my priority up there. I prefer Fratelli, some of the other guys, but yeah, in a course like this, as you mentioned, consistently making cuts, I don't think he will make a huge impact on your lineup one way or the other.
Ball striking seems to be an issue with this next guy. And this is what happens. This is what happens with him. And at this price, he's going to be juicy. I fell into the trap of John Deere. He had a good Asian swing, but we didn't have to worry about a cut. This week we do. He's from the area or lives in the area, I believe. I'm talking about JT Poston. He's from North Carolina, I think. I'm not sure where he lives now. He might live down there now. Regardless, he hit 56% of his greens last week. One of the worst guys that's playing this week that also played last week. That worries me a bit. Actually, he was the worst, and he was the best putter. So I'm really nervous about that. Of course, if the putter stays hot, he could breeze through this cut. But I'm not going to lie, man. It does make me a little bit nervous.
He shot 65 on Sunday. That was encouraging. Bad course history here, but he is playing better than I think he ever has. So with the price where it is, I'm always a JT Poston guy, and I do like him. I am more intrigued by Henley if I had to one-off it. So that's where my priorities lie. But Poston is the type of player that I just like to play in these type of fields, and with his game being what it is.
Yep, it's understandable. I'm not going to have zero, but I don't think he can make my best lineup. That 56%, yeah. The 56% GIR scares me a little bit. Whereas I could go to somebody right next to him, and this is my third bullet point here that I had to talk to you about. Looks like a pure leverage spot for Bryce Garnett, and I mean pure leverage. 2.2% owned is what I have him projected at. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be right, but 11th place finish last week. It looked good. The ball striking looked really good. He hit, I believe it was just about 70% of his greens. 37th and 29th here the last 2 years. Of course, that's not what we necessarily want out of our 8,300 guy, but at 2% owned of a guy above 8K, I mean, would someone be silly to take 10-15% and get that 5 or 7x on the field?
So I think Bryce Garnett is the type of player that, at least for me, if I'm, the best ball, if I'm trying to beat 80,000 people, he's actually kind of interesting. You're going to get low percentage. We've seen he's won an event. He's won during swing season. He can do things like that. But in terms of really honing in on him, for me, I probably don't get there. When you have guys like Vaughn Taylor and Furyk right below him, the safety for me just outweighs what is going to be very depressed ownership. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I think if you play all the contest all the way down, certainly in the MME and the $8, he's a good target because, like we mentioned, 2% owned. If he gets into the top 10, your leverage there is great. But I don't think you need to use him in your one-off contest with Vaughn Taylor and Jim Furyk right there, who I think do provide probably a little bit more of a safety net. All right, Lanto Griffin, what did FanDuel do? Did FanDuel put it? I know that when they came out with odds right away, the book made a mistake and they put him out at 225 to 1. They took all those bets back and reissued him at 50 to 1. I'm almost thinking the FanDuel guys just totally missed it and put him priced at 225 to 1 because that's where he's priced with. He's 7,400 over there this week.
Yeah, that's shady.
Almost like a free square. The guy hasn't missed a cut in like 5 years, it feels like. Although last week he came in like 71st. Maybe the run is starting to end. What do you make of Lanto Griffin? Will you utilize that on FanDuel if you play over there? And will you just fade him on DK because of it?
That's probably where I'm at, price dependent. But I echoed this. I want to say it was Ryan Moore. A couple.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it sure was. Yeah.
And we spoke on this show about, listen, I get it. It's a free square and I'm going to use it. But in specifically single entry tournaments, say you have 100-man single entry, you might legitimately get that guy at like 75% owned. And to me, there in a field like this with a cut, it's worth it to deviate because when you get a miscut, as we saw, which can happen to anybody, it's not like they're more. I just want to clarify this as it's very obvious. It's not like they're more likely to make the cut if they're 80% owned. That's not how that works. I know it seems like that intuitively.
It's a great point.
But it doesn't work like that. So when you get paid off on a potential free square, the benefit in golf specifically is gigantic. It's not like basketball. So keep that in mind, but there's no doubt he makes a fantastic play over there when you look at that price.
Yeah, and especially with the recent win, in a field like this, he'll definitely be very popular. Okay, well, that was all I had in the 8K. We talked about Russell Henley. I think we're both going to be pretty much on him and hope for the most part that people are not going to play him. Anything else above 8K that you want to throw at me before we move into our Make the Cut segment?
No, I think we talked about, like I said, Henley specifically. This bizarre situation I'm pretty interested in because I don't think a lot of people or some people will realize what happened.
It's insane. It really is. It's like, I feel like we've said this a couple of times on the show, but it's like nothing I've ever seen before.
No, it's a new Andy Sullivan, not to tangent, but Andy Sullivan falls in the shower a couple weeks ago for me. Now this guy gets disqualified. Like swing season has just been very shady. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh man. I still cannot believe he fell in the shower. Legitimately. Anyways, okay. Well, we will talk about the DP world coming up here in about maybe like 10 minutes. We'll give just a couple of notes on it since there is another 5K to first on DraftKings on there. If you want to throw in a lineup or two, we'll give you our best little guesses at least at it. Okay, so let's move down. Make the cut segment. This is always fun where we get to throw out our random names, some names that we may be interested in. I'll start it off with a chalk guy. I'm maybe interested, maybe not, but I think he may end up being one of the highest owned golfers of the slate. Rory Sabatini, the Slovakian. What do you make of him being the chalk, and do you think he makes the 65-man cut?
Yeah, so he's the type of guy I might try to hedge a little bit, use him in like a cash setting because I think he does make the weekend. But if he's going to turn out another, I'm just going to look at his recent form, 30th-esque type thing.
Yeah,
there are guys like Harmon, Higgs, Joel Damon, in my opinion, that I think have more boom bust. So I know we had a question in chat. Do you think Rory is the best? I hope you're talking about McIlroy, and yes, he is. But Sabatini, I think, makes that weekend just fine.
Okay. Hit a lot of greens last week, 80% of his greens. So bad putter. Makes sense. Bad putting week last week, I should say. Okay, number 2, where'd my list go? There we go. Brian Harmon snuck through last week, was very popular. He's a favorite of mine, as you know. I didn't play him that much, and I don't think I'm going to again this week if he's going to be popular. Do you think he makes the cut, or do you think the form ends? He's a Georgia guy, too. I think he lives here as well.
Yeah, good Bermuda putter. I think that Brian Harmon has less made cut equity than some of these other guys, but he also has more top 10 equity, in my opinion. So he makes a good GPP play. I think he does find the week, and I'm going to have some. If he is popular, I may not be able to get leverage, but that's more a product of the field than me.
Yep, I think that makes sense. Adam Long, I did not go back and look if he has the Audrey Arnaud problem, which is you have a good start or a good finish, and then you are not able to bounce back and have another one the next week. Although I wanted to, I had a note to, and I just forgot. But I'm going to go with that. That's what happens here. I don't think this course. Maybe it should set him up because it's similar to last week. I don't know. I'm just going with him not missing the cut. I'm not going to play him at $7,800.
I'm not there either. It's partly a product of, as Chad just mentioned, Harmon likes this course. Sabatini's playing well. Harry Higgs, we've already discussed. I like him. So I don't have a ton of room for Adam Long. And I think his runner-up last week may make him a lightning rod for some ownership.
Yeah, I think so. And you just got to, in a field like this, you have to be able to pick your spots of where you want to go to.
Definitely.
In that regard. So, okay. Let's move on down. We talked about Harry Higgs and Ryan Armour. I think we're both on them. I'm sorry. I didn't ask you about Ryan Armour. I just kind of blurted out my 90-80. Are you on him at all? And does he make the weekend for you?
Yeah, I have no problem with him. I'm kind of indifferent to the play. I think he's a pseudo cash play, to be honest. As you mentioned, he's a ball striking clinic.
Yep.
No problem. Not a priority for me, but not someone I would worry about if I rostered him.
Yeah, I take that sentiment and totally understand it. And the weeks that I don't feel I have to worry about him,
Well,
the weeks I end up having to worry about him, that's just how it ends up going for me. But so be it. Okay, next one on my list. Austin Cook, former winner here, kind of sitting in that tough 125 to 150 category here on past champion status, though. This one's a tough one for me because I don't think ownership's going to be here. What do you make of Austin Cook this week?
So I think this is a perfect example of how golf is crazy because this is my true feelings. I don't think he makes the cut, and I think he's a very interesting GPP play. And that just speaks to a guy that when he makes it, he pays you off. He had 2 top 20s. We've seen he's won at this course, but he's also missing a lot of cuts. So I may have a couple flyers of him, but overall, I'm not going to back a guy that I just don't think is playing consistent enough golf week in and week out.
Joel Damon kind of fits that exact same bill. We tried to play him. Both of us tried to play him over the Asian swing. Wasn't bad, but certainly wasn't great at times either. You gonna play him this week at all after the 6th place finish last week?
I am. So he's someone I do agree is pretty similar, but for me, the form is a little more consistent. That I feel more comfortable targeting him. We know he can get hot with the irons. He had a very impressive run up where he was a candidate to win, and it seemed like he was going to break through. Didn't get it done, and then kind of regressed. But man, I have no problem with Dahmen in this spot.
I don't either. I don't. He made one of probably my 5th lineup in. I think he was the last one in my what I call my big dollar. I tried to make those before this, so we can kind of talk about it a little bit. Chris Kirk, he's been battling a lot of stuff off the course. It maybe seems like he's back. Had a decent week last week. Came in 2nd on that Swing Thought Tour tournament, which is not anything that great, but still just shows that he's playing some good golf right now.
I was actually pretty impressed, to be honest. I had I shouldn't even say low. I had no expectations. But he churned out a quality showing, comes to a course that he really likes. And yeah, I think that he's an interesting play. Now, again, it's one start. I don't want to overjudge. Oh, he's completely back. There's no rust to shake off. Or maybe he just snuck through a cut. So I'm tepid in my expectations, but I still don't mind going to him at a course that we know he really should respond to.
Similar situation, but not because he liked drinking, but because he had back surgery. Been back for a couple of starts. Should have won this event 4 years ago, but Kevin Kisner took him over. He had a massive lead. I'm talking about Kevin Chappell. Chappell's price is still cheap at 7,100, where they just threw Chris Kirk from 6,300 all the way up to 7,600. Are you more apt to go to Kevin Chappell over Chris Kirk this week?
Yeah, probably. So Kevin Chappell is someone I've just been playing, and I know that again, it's not probably the Kevin Chappell of old, but at the same time, he's priced next to guys that I just can't in good conscience really back long term. He's so much better than some of the neighboring price. I'm going to back a guy.
Team, a couple of years ago.
He's a player, and I think we see that get back. Maybe not immediately, but I'll continue to buy.
Will you continue to buy Robbie Shelton and deal with a little roller coaster?
That's a tough one for me. So he is as close to a coin flip in my book as I have this week. As you mentioned, all over the place. He had 2 top 10s, actually kind of bookends. He was 7th at Greenbrier to start it, and last week he was 6th at Mayakoba. Little all over the map. I believe he's a Bama boy, I want to say. So he has, some ties to the South. Should be an okay course for him. But man, what do you think about him? I'm very interested to hear this.
Yeah, I saw the tidbit floating around today, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to not take credit. I did not come up with this. I did not see this in person. I just read it somewhere that he's using the Webb Simpson, Matt Kuchar style of putting, where he does that. It's up against his arm. He arm locks it. He just started that last week, and we know that putting was his problem when he was struggling over the fall circuit when we had strokes gained. So if he really likes that and he's going to be hot with that, yeah, his ball striking is good. And this is a course where he can use his combination of length and accuracy very well to him. If he gets hot with the wedges, I can definitely see Robbie Shelton. So I guess I'll ride that hot new putter kind of theme. We saw Webb Simpson when he first started doing it, right? And he first caught on, just going a run like we had never seen before. I'm not saying we're going to get that with Robbie Shelton by any stretch, but it's something to definitely look at it and keep an eye on, because if this could be, sometimes that's all it takes with these guys. It's just one little switch, and Keith Mitchell goes from a flat to a spider and he wins. I'm not going to say that's going to happen with Robbie Shelton, but sometimes it's all it takes.
No, it's worth noting, and you know what? Anything to up the variance on some of these guys is not the worst thing. That's what you're really trying to embrace in a giant tournament. Yeah, maybe he doesn't like it, but that's okay. You know what? You live and you learn. If he does and he responds to it, you're getting a guy at a price and an ownership level that's not reflecting this new change, and that's really important.
Speaking of new change, when are we going to get a new change with Kyle Stanley?
Never.
Okay.
It's dust. I don't know.
It's bad, right? It's
pretty bad.
Bad again. It's bad. It was okay, and now it's bad again.
Just bad. Yeah. I mean, miscut at Mayakoba. He just has in my opinion, this is a guy who has no business missing cuts at this time of year. Like, you should not be missing the cut.
Playing in them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to play at Safeway, at Mayakoba, at Sanderson Farms, that's pretty disappointing. And it's just, I'm not really there. Even at Shriners, you look, you say, wow, all right, he made 20 birdies. Nice. He came in 48th. I'm just not there on Kyle Stanley right now. His game is not where I thought it should or would be, honestly.
A couple of good names still to come in this segment here. Pat Rogers popped here last year, lost to Charles Howell in that playoff. Kind of what he does. It's kind of weird. He just shows up at random times. What about Pat Rogers?
I am not there on Pat Rogers. As you mentioned, he comes out of nowhere. I will say, if you dig in a little bit to that, he gained 9 strokes putting here last year. That'll help.
Pat Rogers
did that at JDC a couple years ago. Yeah. Pat Rogers. So I get it. I don't like to play whack-a-mole with guys, as I try to deter that as much as I can.
Makes sense. Totally. Guy that I'm back in on, maybe back-to-back guys that I'm back in on at least a little bit. Keith Mitchell and Luke List. I'm playing Keith Mitchell's angle on the Bermuda for sure. Finally back on the preferred surface. Hasn't played all that bad. And this is where I slammed him last year at the Honda. This price, $6,900 at the pressed ownership. I don't know that we're going to get a Honda recurrence, but I think that the form is at least good enough there for me to go and leverage a spot here with Keith Mitchell. You have any interest?
So normally I would say no, but he was so impressive during the Florida swing. He was so impressive at Honda, which is, I think, a pretty decent comp. And you know what? He is one of the few guys, I don't like to do this, but his abilities of he should tear apart the plantation, just decimate it.
Yep.
That really helps him. A couple extra par fives to get through that cut. I know everybody gets them, but man, he benefits just as much as anyone. So I actually do think that if you want to build some, somewhat driver heavy teams and be a little different, he's a guy to look to.
Luke List kind of in that same bucket for you? Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. Club down off the tee, as you've mentioned before, how it's counterintuitive, but guys like Gary Woodland have championed that. You're a long hitter, but actually a short course can help because it just mitigates your spraying completely and you benefit.
Doug Gim almost won the Farmers Insurance. He was in the lead, and now he's terrible. He missed the cut at the Bermuda. I tried to play him. I tried so hard at the beginning of this fall swing. I can't play him now, but does he see the weekend at least this week, or he's just not even there? Not making enough birdies.
Nah, he's just not scoring. And as you mentioned, a cut that I don't think he can grind to the weekend. Like you gotta go out and post numbers here, especially on plantation. So I'm not there on him. It's weird. He's got to get that form back.
I always like to throw out a name. This is a name that I didn't bring him up last week, but I kept my eye on, and he made the cut. Guy by the name of William Gordon. So he gets a sponsor exemption this week. William Gordon. Yep. Commissioner Gordon of
seriously.
Of Batman here. I'll tell you a little bit about this guy. He went to Wake Forest and he was ranked 9th in the world in the amateur ranks. So one of the best players, had a scoring average of under 70 his all 4 years at Wake Forest. As long as I'm reading about the right guy, I believe I am. Here we go. He's been playing around on the Korn Ferry Tour, the Mackenzie Tour. He's got a couple of starts on the PGA, and he actually made 10 of 12 professional cuts. Nothing that serious, no great finishes or anything like that. But the cut equity actually seems to be there. He squeaked through last week at OHO Mayakoba. He's basically min-priced again this week. I'm not saying I've talked you into playing him, but the 10 of 12, the cut equity seems to be relatively high. Do you think it's a little bit better than a coin flip, or is this guy, am I getting a little too over edge here?
My only thing about this is that I don't know on a week like this if you need a min guy. Because I don't love guys like Webb Simpson, I may not have to dig this low. Now, if you do, I don't know who this is, but I'll tell you this, the guys I do know down here, I don't want to play. So that might open the door for him and whoever Grayson Sig is. That's quite a name. So good for that guy. Go get it, buddy. But it's better than playing like Hagee and Ted Potter. I mean, you got to take a shot if you need to go down here. I personally don't think I will, though.
All right, Grayson Sig is 9th in the order of merit on the Mackenzie Tour right now.
Got a 59, that's what I know.
Yes, he sure did. And because he came in 9th in the order of merit, 6th to 9th get into the Korn Ferry qualifying tournament, which comes up in 2 weeks. That's the one where the top 40 guaranteed status, and the better you do, the more status you get on the Korn Ferry Tour. So interesting. How about Akshay Bhatia making his first professional cut? Is it this week, or are we still not there for the 17-year-old?
Oh, keep an eye on him. I'm interested to see how he plays, but I'm not going to I don't think there's a reason to try to be early on him right now.
Okay.
I got one guy for you.
Drew Love?
No, not Drew Love. This guy's egregious, but he's not that egregious. I just want to give a quick plug because he's my favorite guy, sub 7K.
Okay. I like it.
It's Maverick. Maverick is playing better. He has made 5 straight cuts. He was 4th in driving accuracy last week, clubbed
Ooh.
down off the tee.
Oh, that's nice.
And he's playing well. Now, I know the putting can come and go, the scrambling, same concept. But if he continues, what I really like about him is he played in Bermuda and he played in Mayakoba. Shot 65 to close out Mayakoba on Sunday. And if he can continue that driving accuracy, I think he has another good week at a very depressed price point.
I like that call. Maverick McNeely is a sharp one. My top play down here so far this week, Robert Streb, gloveless wonder Robert Streb, past champion of this event, has been hitting a ton of greens in Bermuda and Mayakoba. I think he's hit over 80% both weeks. Excuse me, so something's got to give. He'll probably miss, probably hit about 45% in his first 2 days and easily miss the cut, but that's where I'm going. I'm looking at Robert Streb. I think that he's been playing pretty good. Plus, he's had his back up against the wall and been able to rally against this point. And now he comes to a course where, like I said, he's won at before. So that's definitely an interesting note there. All right, let's go into hot takes. Last week, not so much.
I don't remember what I said, but it couldn't have been good.
I actually had it. Mine was Brendan Wu top 10. I didn't get it, but at least he made the cut. He had a chance at the top 10 and then blew it.
Oh, I said Harry Higgs top 10. That actually wasn't that bad.
No, I was just about to say that was one place off of placing there. So that's actually pretty good. That's not bad at all. In terms of it, if you bet them both to make the cut, at least you would have made some good money on that front. Okay, so you win. So you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'm going to stick with what I just said. I'm going to go with the top 10, but I'm going to say that Maverick has his best showing and not breaks through completely, but puts himself up there with the top 10.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think that's a really good.
Gordon wins that.
They had his coach on one of the sessions. I don't know if you were watching one of the fall circuits. They had his new coach on, and I think it was one of the more well-known coaches. And he said that this kid's got all the talent in the world, and it just needed some time. And maybe we're starting to see that the driving accuracy is because he's notoriously good at bombing the ball. So absolutely. I really like to see that. I think that's real interesting. All right, the one name I'll throw out there that is been around for a little while, just missed out last year. He's playing in the toughest bracket, the 125 to 150. It's really hard to play out of there. But an 11th place finish in Bermuda at least has him a little positive. That's Josh Teeter, a guy that is just really good with the wedges. I know he's a favorite and has been on a podcast here in the industry, the Golflandia one with Matt Wiley. So I like Josh Teeter. I think that he sets up well for these type of short courses that can plot yourself around. And so what am I going for him? I'm going a top 15. I'm not going for the top 10 because he came in 11th, and I'm just trying to give myself 3 more positions. No, I'm just kidding. I'll go with the top 10. It's actually a pretty good odds on Teeter for top 10. So plus he gets another start on that. Yeah, okay. So let's those are good. Yours is McNeely, mine is Teeter. Let's go to just real quickly the DP World Championship.
Where all the good players are.
World of good players, yeah. Where all the good players are. Rory is, I saw it today, if Rory wins, he is basically a top 10 away from taking over world number 1. I think you and I both agree right now he is the best player in the world. I don't really give a flying crap about what the OWGR says. You put him against Brooks in a one-on-one and Rory would likely smash him right now. But lo and behold, I think he's still got a driver to go ahead and do that now because of that. You play him at these exorbitant prices. I mean, it's expensive, but it's Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, I mean, him and Rahm they're the class of the field as they should be. The trick over there is, can you find someone a little down? Whether it's Schwab or Wiesberger, those next level guys, Sergio's there. There's a lot of big names, of course. It's just, if you want to pay up for one of the big 2, and I suggest that you do if you're playing, it's just about filling out the rest of the roster at that point.
Okay, so we gave one cheap guy last week. The cheap guy this week, if nobody plays him, and they haven't been, if nobody plays Guido Migliozzi this week, then that's fine at 6,100. I'm going to just play him. I expect him to be really highly owned. The field is much shorter. I don't even think it's – how many players is it? Maybe 50? I'm looking at it right now and just trying to count off the top of my head. It's a very short field.
Yes, it is.
It might even be 30 players. Anybody else down low that if you were making one lineup and you said, you know what, I really want McIlroy and Rahm in this lineup, I'm just going to go for it. Who's the 6K guys that you're going to throw in with him, or at least one of them?
So it's the same guy that I gave last week, and he actually was pretty good. It's Aaron Rye. Yep. He came in 13th at Needbank, coming off, and it's just someone that I've banked as a long-term play for me. He's an English kid, a lot of talent, and he's only 6,300 here. Again, he's a little outmatched, but he's putting together quality finishes, and I expect that kind of once again, despite who he's playing against.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's a great call. I mentioned Migliozzi. I believe he's going to be chalk, but once you throw those two guys in there, if you throw Ryan Migliozzi in with Rahm and McIlroy, you still got 7,100 to spend. So you can still go down and add in another one of these flyers, even add in Ian Poulter and somebody else low. I'd recommend leaving a couple hundred off the table if you're trying to win the 5K. I don't think you need to leave a ton because there's not a ton of lineups in there. But leave 300 or 400 and you're likely to have it not be duplicated. So those are the quick notes on the DP World Tour. I'm very happy for Tommy Fleetwood. We didn't mention at the top of the show him getting the win. Glad for him to do it. Didn't have to go against Rory McIlroy or Jon Rahm, so I don't think he goes back-to-back this week. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, Schwab's at 8,700. That's an auto play for me at this point.
Because he's the greatest. But no, I think that does do it for us. Chat, what can we say? It's been an awesome year. As always, if you can hit the like button, we do appreciate it. It helps us a ton. And, you know, I think me and Jason, we're definitely going to discuss. We've got a little off time, but we'll keep you posted. Maybe we'll do some things to rev up for the season. And as I said on the Tuesday show, get in touch with us. If there's something on this late show that you say, you know what, I struggle in this area and I wish you guys discussed it, or is there, you know, we want feedback. We love the structure of the show, but we're definitely going to add some new things going forward. So if anyone has anything, just get in touch with us. We love the input. We love the feedback, and we want to make the show what you guys want to see. That's what's really all about.
That's why we're here. We're here to help you guys to give out some of our plays.
Definitely.
We love the chat aspect of it when you come in and give us the Tim Wilkinson call or anything like that from the beginning. So that's what makes the show fun and interactive. I'll be doing a couple of things. I'll be way too bored if I don't do at least one or two things. So you can expect either an article recapping some specific area or a podcast that I'll try and drag Ben onto, but we
can wrangle some time. College basketball, college football consumes everything, but we got plenty of time for golf. It's not going away anytime soon. So we'll bounce on out of here. And like I said, if we do anything, we will keep everybody posted, no doubt about it. And honestly, the best way to get posted, sign up. We'd love to have you in there, not just for golf. We have so much going on. We have such a good team for basketball, for NFL, for all our sports. And we have so many different packages that cater to everyone. So just come check us out. We'd love to get you in Slack and get you part of the community.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, Ben, I'll have you send us off.
All right. Well, thanks again to Fantasy Draft, as we always say. And thanks, Jason. It's been an awesome year. Plenty more where that came from. Hopefully less tilt, more winnings on my end, but we will get there. And so we'll keep everyone posted. Good luck this week. And we will see you hopefully soon, but if not, for the Sony Open in January. Take care.